Hello, everybody. So my name is Rumie, and I have been teaching you guys in this unit about climate change. We are going to discuss today climate change. Okay, so we've been doing this for a while. This is our last lesson. And we've already discussed sea level rise, renewable and non-renewable resources, extinction, and we are going to finish up this unit. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly give you a nugget of wisdom. Together we can face any challenges as deep as the ocean and as high as the sky, by Gandhi. Okay, so I hope you guys have already done a little bit of individual work on understanding why climate change is important with your previous homework assignments, as well as the other lessons when we talked about how to use your resources. So I just wanted to ask you guys, why is climate change important to us? You can each speak whenever you're ready.
So that the world doesn't catch on fire.
That's very true. Okay, anybody
So
else?
our future generations can have a place to live and grow and continue with our world.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, the subsistence of the human race and like the future of mankind, I think depends on it. So it's probably the most important thing for future generations.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I completely agree. I feel like you guys have taken a lot from this unit already. So again, climate change is the long-term alteration in Earth's climate and weather patterns. It took nearly a century to convince the vast majority of the scientific community that human activity could alter the climate of our entire planet. So just a little historic timeline about climate change. It is dating back to the ancient Greeks. People had proposed that humans could change temperatures and influence rainfall by chopping down trees, plowing down fields, and irrigating a desert. Okay, in the 1800s, experiments suggesting that human produced carbon dioxide and other gases would collect in the atmosphere and insulate Earth. In 1950s, CO2 readings would provide some of the first data to corroborate the global warming theory. Data would lead to modeling that global warming was not only real, but it is a pressing catastrophic consequences. In 1985, drilling 150,000 years deeper into the ice and ozone hole discovery, ice cores extracted from Antarctica confirmed that CO2 and temperature have gone up and again and down together over the past 150,000 years. Many aspects of climate change are now inevitable and irreversible. Scientists predict the world will reach 1.5 Celsius of warming by 2040. Earlier than initial warnings, that level of warming will lead to more heat waves, intense storms, droughts, and floods. So I did want to talk about how I used to live in California. There are a lot of, it used to be where everything was green and it started to turn all yellow. And I could see that change happening over the 20 years that I lived there. So it was pretty sad to watch, especially because there they have the sequoia and Yosemite trees. Those are the biggest trees in the world, and they are all going to end up suffering. We had a lot of fires around when COVID hit in California. So we do need to realize that this is actually happening right now. I also wanted to talk about global implications. These are actually happening around the world, not just in the specific areas where they're located, but these are the areas where it is happening as well. So we have increases in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Rising sea level threatens coastal communities and ecosystems. changes in the patterns and amount of rainfall, as well as changes in the timing and amount of stream flow can affect water supplies and water quality. Oceans are warming and becoming more acidic. Glaciers and ice sheets are melting due to rising temperatures and warmer ocean waters. Human health, they are worsening, and water quality and increasing the spread of certain diseases as well is an issue that we have to face. I just wanted to ask you guys if you have any reflections or anything.
On BBC that is now scientists are seeing that global warming in the oceans is happening at a much higher rate than other areas, than even what they anticipated. Some areas it's like a couple degrees, but some other areas it's like on the scale of like 5, 6, 7 degrees that is changing. And they're not really sure what is causing it. But I don't know. It's kind of an interesting theory because they were talking about how certain boats that pollute, they have like much more restriction on boats in like freight ships, and their fuel pollutes the water, and it actually sometimes the pollution actually reflects some of the heat. So they were saying that actually the reduction in pollution could be contributing to the formation of more heat because of the reduced reflectivity of the water, but I'm not sure. But what I've always heard is that like the ice caps, because of the snow melting on most of the ozone is depleted towards like the North Pole and like over Australia. Those areas seem to be like more affected, and in the North Pole, like because with having less and less glacial mass, there's less reflectivity and more absorption of sun rays and heat infrared into the ocean, because there's not as much snow, or not as much reflectivity from the snow to keep it cooler. But yeah, I don't know. They were just talking about something just today about how the oceans are actually warming at a much higher rate than they even expected than just this last year, I think.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's actually relevant to your day, as well as what we're talking about and what we just talked about, how the oceans are getting more acidic and just warming up. So thank you for sharing your prior knowledge and what you already know. That really helps out with this lesson. Okay, so I have a worksheet you guys can sort of think about while I share this image. So it's called See, Think, and Wonder approach. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the things that we observe first in this painting that I'm going to show you guys. And I want you guys to think about things that we infer based on what we see, and then wonder like questions that you have. Okay, so let's begin with things we observe. So you can each talk about the things that you observe in this painting. This is actually a painting done by me, and I wanted to utilize it for this part of the lesson. So go ahead.
I see part of the nature, and the other side is the distraction of that wonderful world.
I see that everything blends together, everything is unified, nothing is independent, like everything affects each other.
It's a very interesting painting. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like yeah, so it looks like the central piece here that's bringing the destruction sort of back together. I mean, the symbolism here, I think, is the disassembled bicycle. He's sort of putting it together again. It seems like he's sort of, that's he's trying to reconstruct what is sort of a deconstructive world for better.
Okay. So this, okay, I will go with the next part. So things that we can infer based on what we see.
What do you mean?
Like how,
Oh, sorry. Maybe I think I kind of sort of went to the inference part. I think
Yeah.
we're just talking about just observe on the first part.
that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all did the same thing.
Okay, that's fine. So we can pretty much
Yeah.
see that this is a united world that is being deconstructed and just destroyed, and we see the human. So questions you might have.
About
But
the
it's
paint.
About what the painting makes you feel, or like makes you think and wonder about, like,
Mm,
what's on top of the hill there, like at the top of that waterfall? I can't really see it that well. I just wonder what that is. On the upper right, or like the very top right. Looks like, is that a person? or something?
yeah, it's a person doing yoga.
Okay. Oh, tree pose. Okay, got it.
Tree pose. Kinda
Marvelous. Really good.
It makes me wonder if we're able to do kind of like reconstruct what we had destroyed.
Okay. I'm the artist, so Rumie, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the piece myself. Usually we would discuss, the artist that did do it. So a little bit about myself is that I have been trying to figure out, some of the issues that we're facing as a united community, and how we can become more united and bring awareness to the issue of climate change, and what are human activities, how they're their causes and effects of what we do to our, to our resources and to our planet. This is supposed to represent a human, like you could say, like one of the first humans in the world. And so this is before humanity, really, more humans, just the population growth and everything started happening. This is when, you could see that everything is kind of just flowing. And we have here like all the animals, they're happy, they're got the little baby elephant, the lion, the little baby back here is holding an orange. And the little monkey's mom or dad is really happy, and they're like peace. We also have here the vegetables and fruits that we were eating, and that was really a natural way for us to grow our own food, which is important. I used to grow my own food as well, and it's not very easy, but it is very rewarding for the self as well as the health. And so we can see here like the construction of the bike instead of the cars like you see here, which you see all of this coming out of the cars. Now we have electric cars, which is a great step in progress. So that is something that as humans we are looking into. You could see all the animals are just content. On this side, it is quite the opposite. The trees have just burnt. Everything is just kind of dying. We see here the chickens and their eggs. They're just millions of chickens packed together. It could barely fit in there. Same with the mama pig and all its babies. Here we have the mom cow where the milk is being extracted. So the baby cow has to be separated from its mom, and it's just really sad for it. Also, just like the gases they produce, and industrial as well. So this is pretty much just showing what is going on. As a contemporary artist, I want to express to the world what's happening right now in front of us that we don't really see because, we go to the grocery store and we just buy things and don't realize that, maybe we need to just preserve them a little better, or even just like how we use our energy, maybe make it a little more solar. I mean, we've already discussed renewable and non-renewable energies in another lesson, so I won't go in deep in that again, but just keep in mind that this is happening. Okay. So we've already discussed what climate change is. We started to think about the cause and effect of our planet from the actions of us humans. Do any of you have an example of what is causing climate change by any chance?
I think it's lots of things, but yeah, mainly humans. I think overusing resources and not being cognizant or just not caring about the consequences, and continuing to do so without regard to what's happening. I think that there's a point where we can turn it around, but there's a lot of people that I think are benefiting from not doing that, not turning it around. So it's hard because it's kind of turned into a business, but mainly humans, I think.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I think, yeah, I definitely think that it's sort of the human race needs to slow down. I think we're moving at a pace that's not sustainable, and we all know it. But the thing is, it's hard to get off the train when it already has that much speed without derailing everything. So, because society's worked now has a momentum that is faster than it's ever been before, because of the technology and industry. So it's hard really to change that. So sometimes you may have to, like, in order to get society or get the world in a better place, you may have to make some compromises. It may not be feasible to like just make an initial like immediate change to like solar, wind, and geothermal energy. The transition has to happen over a longer period of time, because you have to be able to invent and have the financial resources to be able to make those changes. And sometimes you may have to rely on like fossil fuel energy to be able to facilitate those changes in the interim until more technology exists and more backing exists for more renewables. But yeah, it's a balance that's sort of out of balance between the nature and the plant life on Earth, which has been gracious enough to give us oxygen and be able to breathe and live, versus the human race, which is sort of like become too like reliant on industries that create so much CO2 that the plants are not able to keep up with our demand or our usage. So I don't know. I think it can be restored, but the balance is like got to tilt back. Maybe it's possible to change back. I don't know. Not sure. But it's got to start somewhere. But it can't, like, it's got to start somewhere, but it can't be too abrupt, because if society just like crumbles too, then that doesn't work either. I don't know. I guess sometimes like the first steps maybe not the most obvious. Like immediately switching to renewables immediately. Making it difficult for certain sectors of the economy to function because they're polluting, sectors. I think that it's sort of like you have to have economic growth and progression to like have the ability to also fight climate change at the same time. You can't just pull the resources from nowhere.
It's true.
No, I think what is doing it, I agree with both of them, is the decisions that we make, but each person too, not just the industries, is also us. Like if we decide that we want to recycle or not to recycle, like every little thing that we can change to help. Talking about floss, I just bought floss that is not supposed to be polluting the environment. So it's just doing little things like that that can help.
One thing I wish they had was just biodegradable gloves. We lost an XCP. Sorry, we found it. They told me that they lost it, and I said, well, we're going garbage hunting. So we went through the garbage and then at the office, and I just realized in like one bag, there had to be about like 30 to 40 pair of gloves. And I kind of joked with a patient today. I said, they're like, yeah, you guys go through a lot of gloves. I'm like, yeah, we do go through a lot of gloves. I said, one day in the ocean, there'll be an island called Glove Island, and you'll visit it, and it'll be all gloves. It'll just basically be an island full of gloves and probably seagulls. And people will probably look at that as a trip, a vacation. I sort of said it jokingly, but then I was sort of like, I don't know, part of me was like, yeah, there probably are islands that have probably exclusively gloves based on just our office usage and the comparison like of how many offices are using these materials that seemingly never biodegrade to like nuclear waste.
That's actually really good that you did bring this up, because you are relating it to your everyday life, and that is one of the purposes of interactions with students. So thank you for sharing that. I know there's islands of trash right now already. And so I'm sure there's probably gonna be one full of gloves. You know, we have like this Novant hospital here, and even where you guys are at, you know, and not just like the schools, but also like all the offices, all the people are using gloves. I mean, hopefully we can one day make some gloves that are more biodegradable, but
Yeah, that would be cool. We have water bottles. I have water bottles that are biodegradable.
Oh,
If
nice.
they fall off my bike, then they ultimately degrade, I think, over like 10 years or something.
oh,
I just
that's
don't know about drinking the water. How if I'm like drinking the bottle too, like I think about that sometimes.
so we've pretty much already went over if you think this is an issue that matters for the future of our planet. So we've pretty much
Give me one.
discussed all that.
Thunder. What are you doing? Hey.
Okay. So we are going to take a little time to watch this movie trailer. Okay, so have you guys ever heard of The Day After Tomorrow?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we saw that a long time ago in Milwaukee.
Okay, well, some of you have seen it. Let's check out this trailer. Can you hear it?
Extraordinary
Oh, yeah.
and disturbing, that is.
Yeah.
You recall what you said about how polar melting might disrupt the North Atlantic current? Yes.
No.
Well, I think it's happening.
Folks, we've hit some unusual turbulence. We've encountered a cloud layer that's abnormally high.
All right.
Please wait.
He's afraid of flying. Government has to start making long-term preparations now. Jack, all you have is a theory. It's been raining like this for 3 days now.
Mr. President, if we don't act now, it's going to be too late.
I'm afraid that time has come and gone, my friend.
What can we do?
Save as many as you can.
Storm is just gonna get worse. What should we do? I will come for you. Do you understand me?
Okay.
I want to see it.
Okay, so any thoughts?
I think that it's a real possibility for our world to look like that one day.
Exactly what I was gonna say. That's why we need to prepare.
Get an arc.
And
No,
build
we should
furniture.
prepare. Humans should prepare, and we should know where we're gonna meet in your class.
Okay, students,
I don't
so
think there's gonna be a lot of places to meet in that kind of planet.
so if you would like, if your family, well, if your parents, because you're middle school children, allow you to watch this video with them, that would be a great thing to do this weekend for homework. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, I can start right now. Mommy,
Okay. So overall, I just want you guys to take a minute. We've gone through a lot. Take a minute to kind of think about how this makes you feel. You know, how climate change is making you feel, how everything we've discussed already in this unit has, you know, made you think a certain way. I want to make sure that we are expressing ourselves, our emotions, and our thoughts on this. So for today's interactive activity, we are going to be drawing. You guys have color pencils out already that I've passed around. While you're thinking, let's look at this resource here. Okay, so here we have a resource that there are 11 visual artists taking on the issue of climate change. We have Lorenzo Quinn. You can see the mural here. It's about the threat of rising seas in the historic city of Venice. Can we save the planet? In the meantime. We also have this one here by Nicole Sebecki. This is actually a Kenya-based photographer. So this is talking about clean energy transition or documenting the devastating impacts climate change is having on our vulnerable communities around the world. And that's an electric converted Toyota and Land Cruiser. Okay, so here we have the weather project. It's about global warming. So this is Danish, the artist Oliver Ellison, and he's been advocating about environment for decades using sculptures and photography among other mediums. He was appointed a Goodwill Ambassador for Renewable Energy and Climate Action by the United Nations Development Program. So we have here, he's talking about how we need to see accountability by politicians. one of the things that art can do is not the only thing. It is a sort of bring a physical narrative to something that one knows. I think we have a better ability to translate our critical inquiry into actions when we have a physical relationship with the world. So bringing an experiential narrative to knowledge gives you a certain empowerment. And we have a situation where the whole planet has become conscious about climate change. So I think this is what the artist is saying, obviously. Thinks we need to trend how to translate our climate knowledge into climate actions. And so this is pretty much what I want you guys to try to do. So we have here John Occamfrock and their video installations that draws upon his travels in the French Polynesia to address climate change, human communities, and the wilderness. We have Danielle Beltra, Spanish photographer, whose photography show how drastically our planet is changing as a result of the human activity. So you could see that here. Okay. Our planet has limits and we're pushing past them. The deconstruction. And Ana Teresa Fernandez, a Mexican-born San Francisco-based sculptor and painter. So the risk of sea levels are presenting to our community and coastal communities around the world. Living in Wilmington, this is a coastal community here. So we human beings, she describes this as human beings, this ocean planet home, are key protagonists in the plot and pacing of this tale. Individual actions will have everything to do with our collective, how our collective story unfolds. A lot of times we don't think that our small individual acts do make a difference or don't. Everybody has their own opinion. And personally, you can choose to have yours after everything we've discussed, but we do need to understand that as a whole, humanity and society, we are all taking part in this.
Scientists are predicting that the sea levels will rise at least 6 feet within the next 30 to 50 years. As soon as I placed that tube and I saw how high 6 feet is, and I try and draw that line from where I stand on the shoreline all the way across to where I would continue, it's a threat to where I live right now. My community faces a direct threat. How do you arise beauty in a situation that is incredibly frightening? And how do you make people empathize with the unknown, and so they can meet this threat and become aware of it and start moving into a direction where they can do something about it?
Okay, so that was just a little video about the art that she's doing. There are a lot of artists that are trying to do this at the moment, so I do want you guys for homework to look up some artists that you think are being advocates and using artivism to express about climate change issues. So we have here Allison Jane Hamilton, sculptor and photographer and video photographer. Her biography describes that she engages haunting yet epic mythologies that address the social and political concerns of today's changing southern terrain, including land loss, environmental justice, climate change, and sustainability. So this is kind of like a pretty emotional artwork right here. And so we are kind of thinking of this when we are going to do our project next. And if you do not finish the project today, make sure that you take it home and bring it back when we meet up, okay? Because it is a pretty big project. This one's pretty cool. So we have here Alejandro Duran. Did you know that if plastic use were a country, it'd be the 5th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world? It is a serious cause for concern. So we have here, it's called the Washed Up Project, a series of artworks made of international trash that washes up on Mexico's beaches. So he is bringing self-awareness of the problem and hopes to end the plastic pollution trashing the world's land, oceans, and atmosphere. So that is pretty cool. And we have here Jason DeCaris Taylor, sculptor and professional underwater photographer. Shows he's best known for his large-scale underwater sculpture exhibits. So this is really underwater in real life. It's public art. So these are not only examples of successful marine conservation, but works of art that seek to encourage environmental awareness, instigate social change, and lead us to appreciate the breathtaking natural beauty of the water world. They're moving and they speak for themselves. Okay. Julie Heffernan. She's an American painter whose art touches on subjects ranging from the environment to history to feminism, among others. Recently, she made waves in the climate art scene with When the Water Rises, a series of paintings that create alternative habitats in response to environmental disaster and planetary excess.
Okay, I found this on the web for of paintings that create alternative habitats in response to environmental disaster and planetary access. Check it out.
So this is actually part of the lesson. I don't know if you guys could see the screen here, but you guys can ask Siri to help you find artists like you need to do for homework. And there's a lot of information online. Just remember that you have to make sure the information's credible. So I suggest using the library. They will be able to help you as well as Siri. So this is in San Luis Obispo, California. Pretty interesting. Okay. I am going through pretty quickly and showing a lot of art that we could take a lot longer in, but I do want you guys to get started on your project. So take a few minutes to pull out your supplies, please. You're muted, Diana, student.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you got your stuff. Okay, so start thinking about climate change, how it makes you feel. I'm gonna give you guys a little resource so you can have some ideas of what I'm trying to do here. So I do want you guys to write down how you feel, and draw and color, paint how you feel about climate change, what emotion arises as you learned about climate change, and if you can create a message with a solution for this world issue in visual form on your art pieces. You can submit your work on this link that I'm about to share with you guys. And I will show you guys some examples of what I need. So we do need to know that art is related to our environment, and it is a tool we'll use that helps us dig into our knowledge and emotion. We can learn to be sustainable and resourceful. Okay. So we have here a pretty great resource. So this is an ocean awareness contest, and we can enter. I would like for us to do that as a class. a little quote here. Climate change is also really important. You can wreck one rainforest, then drain one area of resources and move into another, but climate change is global. So we have here the student artist, Jin. You could see the type of, these are just to give you guys ideas of some students. And I do want you guys to write a little bit about each piece and what it means to you. So her main statement is that we need to protect our ocean if we are to have a chance at reversing climate change. So the ocean does make life possible on Earth, and it is one of the biggest tools to fight climate change. So the ocean helps regulate our climate and absorbs heat. Currents contribute that heat around the world. Okay, so you may start your piece while I'm just sharing a little bit. These are just, okay, so these are all resources that you can use. Artist Tammy Feng, and this is kind of like what I would like for you guys to do. The name is Climate Anxiety. So climate change can feel scary, overwhelming, and depressing. It is important to let yourself feel anger at its impact on our daily lives and grief at the loss of ecosystems or species. That grief is a reminder of our love for the living blue planet. So this is a very beautiful painting here that we could take as an example. Let me know if you guys have any questions or anything from me as you work. You may get up and grab more materials if you need them. We have them right here, so.
Benjamin went to the art closet.
Perfect, yes, feel free to get up and go grab stuff from our closet here at the school. These are the principles of art and design. We have balance, rhythm, like movement, contrast and colors, movement, unity, emphasis, okay?
Okay.
Balance refers to the visual weight of the elements of the composition. Composition is your entire artwork. It is a sense that the painting feels stable and feels right. Imbalance causes a feeling of discomfort in the viewer. So it is important to try to achieve this. You can do it in different ways. Symmetry, in which both sides of the competition have the same elements in the same position, as in a mirror image or the two sides of a face. A symmetry in which the composition is balanced due to the contrast of any of the elements of art. For example, a large circle on one side of the composition might be balanced by a small circle on the other side. They don't have to be the same size. That's what asymmetry is. Radial symmetry is when the elements are equally spaced around a central point, like a mandala. And everything's coming out of a hub or like a bicycle tire. We have contrast. which is the difference between elements of art in a composition, such as each element is made stronger in relation to one another. So when placed next to the other contrasting elements, command the viewer's attention. Areas of contrast are among the first places that a viewer's eye is drawn. Contrast can be achieved by juxtapositions. Negative positive space is an example of contrast. Contemporary colors placed side by side is an example of contrast. Emphasis is when the artist creates an area of a composition that is visually dominant and commands the viewer's attention. This can be done with contrast. Movement is the result of using the elements of art, such as in a way that they move the viewer's eye around within the image and the composition. So a sense of movement can be created by diagonal or curvy lines, either real or implied, by edges, by the illusion of space, by repetition, by energetic mark making. Pattern is the uniform repetition of any of the elements of art or any combination thereof. Anything can be turned into a pattern through repetition. Some classic patterns are spirals, grids, waves. For examples of different patterns, we can look here. I've given you guys this article so you can check that out on your own. A popular drawing rhythm is created by movement implied through the repetition of elements of art in a non-uniform but organized way. It is related to rhythm in music. So unlike pattern, which demands consistency, rhythm relies on variety. So then we have unity and variety. You want your painting to feel unified, such as that all the elements fit together comfortably. Too much unity creates monotony. Too much variety creates chaos. So you need both. Ideally, you want areas of interest in your composition along with places for your eyes to rest. And then the elements of art, which again, we have already discussed, are the visual components of color, form, line, shape, space, texture, and value. So line is an element of art defined by a point moving in space. Line may be 2 or 3 dimensional, descriptive, implied, or abstract. The shape is an element of art that is 2-dimensional, could be flat or limited to height and width. Form is the 3-dimensional and encloses volume, includes height, width, and depth, as in a cube, a sphere, pyramid, cylinder. Form may also be free-flowing. Value is the lightest or darkest of tones and colors. White is the lightest value, black is the darkest. The value halfway between these extremes is called middle gray. Space is positive or negative areas are defined as a sense of depth achieved in a work of art. An element of art made up of 3 properties, which is color. So that would be hue, value, and intensity. Hue is the name of the color. Value is like lightness, darkness, like shading, which we've already talked about. A color's value changes when white or black is added. Intensity, the quality of brightness and purity. High intensity color is strong and bright. Low intensity color is faint and dull. We also have texture that you can use. So it refers to the way things feel or look as if they might feel to the touch. And we've already discussed the principles of art. Don't forget you have this worksheet in front of you. So if you need to look over this while you do that, that would be fine. Again, rhythm is movement. Proportion. So we also have the relationship of certain elements to the whole and to each other. Gradation, a way of combining elements by using a series of gradual changes, like large shapes to small shapes, darks, hue. Harmony, combining similar elements in an artwork to ascend their similarities, just achieved through repetition and gradual changes. You can have variety with diversity or contrast, using different sizes, colors. And then movement guides the viewers through the work of art.
I'm done.
Me too.
Okay.
Can I show you?
God, you guys are fast.
So let him finish. You guys can take a bathroom break. And we are gonna have an art critique, so go ahead and, if you want to take a break, or I can play the art critique video I have so you guys know what an art critique is.
Remember, I'm a middle school kid when you critique my art.
Okay.
If you spend any time on the internet, it's something you come across frequently. If you're the victim of internet trolls, or if you are an internet troll, listen up. There is an etiquette to critique that has been in play for a long time in art schools all over the world. Let's see if we can learn something from that world and apply it in ours. So here's how an art critique usually goes. An art student sets up their work to show their teacher, a group of teachers, their friends, their class, or an even bigger group. Then discussion ensues, questions are asked, and criticism is offered. Sometimes things do go awry, tears are shed, and expletives hurled. But it's usually a civilized affair, and there is an etiquette to these things that I think it would be useful for us to discuss in relation to the art assignment and to the internet community at large. But first, let's talk about why we should critique in the first place. Because it's the internet and you can anonymously say whatever you want? I'd say no. Because you'd like to change the minds of the person you're critiquing? Definitely no. Critique is often most instructive for the person offering it. In looking at other people's work and formulating your opinion of it, you're learning a great deal. I often see people responding to internet comments by saying, gee, thanks, I never thought about it that way. I agree with you now. But that's okay, because it's still a constructive process. It can help shape your beliefs and teach you about different ways of looking and thinking. That being said, here are some critiquing guidelines. 1, be attentive. The internet has trained us to look at something for a millisecond and to scan text quickly. Fight that urge. Let something linger on the screen for seconds or even minutes. Look at it once and then look at it another time later in the day or the next week. I often have instinctual reactions when I first see something, but then my opinion changes the longer I spend with it, or even a week later when I'm remembering it. Use your faculties and your patience and trust your reactions. 2, don't be lazy. I am a terrible example to follow. When I look at all of the responses that come into the art assignment, my head fills with ideas, but then I get a phone call or I'm in a hurry and I just reblog something or say something tepid instead of saying something substantive about it. I also lean way too heavily on the word interesting. It's value neutral, which is helpful, but it also says very little. For example, the history of documentary photography is interesting, but The Simpsons is also interesting. It's not a particularly specific adjective. There are lots of lazy words, and it's okay to use them sometimes, but try to follow them up with something that has teeth. Instead of saying, this is great, say, this is great because you've done A, B, and C, and then surprised us all by adding D. 3, be generous. Try to look at each work of art for what is successful. Performance artist Matthew Gulish tells us in an essay on criticism to look for the aspects of wonder. We want to encourage more wonder in the world, right? So when we come across it, let's celebrate it. Criticism can be an incredible act of empathy. What made someone make that thing? Why did they do it that way? Be sympathetic to the maker and realize that the mere act of putting yourself and your work out there takes courage. 4, find your point of entry. You don't have to have a PhD in art history to talk about art. So find your point of connection to a piece, as personal as you'd like it to be. For example, this reminds me of a bath mat in the best possible way, because its tactility is enticing and it transports me instantly to my friend's bathroom circa 1997, which had floral wallpaper and smelled like Garnier Fructis shampoo. As it happens, it is a bath mat and not an artwork, but it could be an artwork. Think about what the thing in question reminds you of, whether it's from the same discipline, something personal, or something far-flung. Think about the decisions that were made along the way. Maybe it's the materials used or not used. Maybe it's the way it's been arranged in space or documented for us to see. Maybe it's what the maker decided to include or exclude from the frame of the work. What are the skills on display? Maybe the artist is not an amazing draftsperson, but still ended up with a delightfully peculiar, delicately rendered drawing that communicates much more than a perfectly photorealistic drawing might have done. Maybe the ideas behind a project outweigh the execution. Maybe the execution outweighs the ideas. And if you can't think of anything declarative to say, ask a question. Don't be a jerk. There is a lot you can say about something without declaring it to be good or bad. It can be a productive challenge to try to not make any value judgments while talking about a work. Most art critiques take place in a room where all of the individuals have to look at each other's faces and deal with the immediate consequences of saying something provocative. Pretend you're in the same room with the person you're critiquing. Pretend they're someone you know. I'm not saying to lie or blow smoke. I'm saying don't be a jerk. And finally, why make yourself available for critique? Faced with the reality of all the internet trolls in the world, it's completely understandable to stay in your hole and not participate in internet communities. I totally get that. But the positives of participating in this and other online projects can be real and rewarding. It's hard to have perspective on your work. And offering it up for review means you might have the chance to see it with fresh eyes and learn from the experience of others. But it also makes you vulnerable, which can be a miserably crappy feeling, but sometimes a liberating and empowering one. If you can try to take your ego out of it, you can learn a great deal. I want you guys to talk about each other's work. I don't want this to be just me passing judgment on you guys and the amazing work you do. We must be in this together. So talk to each other, comment on works. Don't be mean, but think about what the aspects of wonder might be in each work and share that with each other. It will make the experience of the art assignment better for everyone involved.
Okay, how's everybody doing? Since we have a student work,
Almost done.
that's fine.
I'm pretty much. I'm
It's
so
okay.
sorry.
No, I actually have a video I wanted to show you guys anyway, so this is perfect.
Let's not beat around the rapidly melting iceberg here. Climate change is happening and we are causing it. The evidence is overwhelming. Scientists usually reserve this level of agreement for claims like Earth is a planet or air is real. Yet here we are. The climate change ship has now left the dock, yet lots of people on shore are still debating whether boats can actually float. But maybe you're a person who trusts and accepts what climate scientists are telling us. It's just, sometimes it's hard to explain why. I mean, we've all been there. I mean, I care about the environment. I figure with the polar bears and everything, we might as well try electric cars. What do we have to lose? And then they go caps lock serious, saying they have proof that climate change is a hoax perpetuated by scientists paid off by the polar bear lobby as part of a plan to install Al Gore as Supreme World Polar Bear Emperor. Wake up, sheeple. To keep that from happening, we put together this handy reference. The sun is the sun on Earth, so thanks for that, sun. Ice and clouds reflect some of its light away, but the rest is absorbed by land and water and re-emitted as heat. Some of that heat escapes to space, and some is held in by the atmospheric greenhouse effect. The insulating effect of Earth's greenhouse gases are the reason that life exists as we know it, but human activities have increased the concentration of one of them, carbon dioxide, 40% since the Industrial Revolution. We know the sun's output has varied during history, but since the 1970s, the period when global temperatures increased the fastest, temperature and solar activity have moved in opposite directions. If the sun was to blame, it would cook the upper and lower layers of the atmosphere together. Instead, we only see warming in the lower layers, the same place that human greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are piling up. Since 1870, with fossil fuels, cement production, and land use combined, humans have put about 2,000 gigatons of CO2 into the atmosphere. That's 2 million tons, and about 40% has stayed there. Studying gases trapped in ice cores has let us see what Earth's atmosphere was like in the past. At more than 400 parts per million, today's carbon dioxide levels are the highest they've been for almost 1 million years. That's before humans even existed. Totally uncharted territory for us. More carbon dioxide in the atmosphere means average temperatures across the globe are increasing, and fast. Right now, Earth is warming about 10 times faster than at the end of an ice age. Okay, so CO2 is increasing. How do we know it's our fault? The best evidence comes from looking at what isotopes, or different kinds of carbon, are in the atmosphere. Fossil fuels come mainly from old plants. Plants prefer to use the lighter isotope carbon-12 over the heavier carbon-13, so they contain a higher ratio of 12 to 13 than the atmosphere does. When more fossil fuels get burned, the percentage of carbon-12 in the atmosphere should go up, and that's exactly what we see. And it's not because of volcanic activity. Volcanoes only emit about 1% as much CO2 as we do. Normally, that CO2 is balanced in exchange between the atmosphere, plants, and animals. But eliminating carbon sinks has released centuries worth in just a few years. Other greenhouse gases are also increasing, like methane from farm animals and natural gas processing, or nitrous oxide from fertilizers. If we run simulations just using natural causes of climate change, they predict no change or even cooling in the 20th century. And that is not what's happening. It's still going to get cold in some places, but in the 2000s, there were twice as many record highs as record lows. And each of the past 3 decades has been warmer than any other decade since we started measuring in 1850. Since 1900, actual temperatures around the world have increased almost a full degree, and most of that has happened since the 1970s. Looking at data from tree rings and ice cores, the past 30 years is probably the warmest in 8 centuries. Of course, not every place on Earth warms equally. Oceans cover more than 70% of Earth, and they absorb more than 90% of the heat added to the planet. Naturally, that's where we see the most extreme changes. Around the world, oceans are rising 1/10 of an inch per year, and they're up 8 inches since 1901. This is because water expands as it warms. And when ice sheets and glaciers melt in Greenland and Antarctica, water that's normally on frozen land gets put in the ocean. The oceans are Earth's largest carbon sink. As more CO2 enters the atmosphere, more of it dissolves in the ocean, which makes the water more acidic. This doesn't mean the oceans will be made of acid, but animals with calcium shells are super sensitive to pH. We're on course for the oceans to hit pH 7.8 in 100 years, which could wipe out 1/3 of species in the ocean. We also know that levels of summer sea ice in the Arctic have decreased 40% since 1978. They might be the lowest levels in 1,400 years. That white sea ice usually reflects the sun's energy back into the atmosphere, but the dark ocean is soaking it up like a black shirt on a sunny day, which feeds the cycle forward. If CO2 emissions continue on their current trends, Earth is on course to be 2.5 to 5 degrees warmer. The oceans could be up to 1 meter higher by the end of this century. Is that a big deal? Yeah, it's the biggest deal. This is by far the greatest issue facing our species. The last time the Earth averaged a few degrees colder, most of North America was covered in a mile-thick sheet of ice. That many degrees warmer, we're going to have a bad time. So now you're armed with the facts, why we know climate change is happening and why we're causing it. Please share this information with the people you know, and then let me know. Did it change any minds? Did it change your mind? I mean, are facts enough? If not, then why do so many people continue to not believe in climate science? We'll answer that question in our next video. Stay curious.
If you wish to make
Okay, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Done.
You're done? Okay, great. So we are going to have our art critique. We did this, we just watched a video about how to do that. So we are going to put them up on the wall. Okay, good job. Wow. Okay, so let's start with Diana. Can you please read what that says, that quote you have there?
We have the power in our hands to help our world by using green energy. Love our planet.
Wonderful. Okay, so you guys know how to do a critique now after watching the video. What do you guys have to say about her piece?
I think that it makes me feel hopeful and it's playful. I like that it almost seems like, I don't know, like an extraterrestrial creature is kind of like gonna help us with it.
Shrek.
It's actually Shrek, yeah. Yeah, Shrek is gonna fix all problems. I really like it. It makes me happy.
I like it too. It's definitely uplifting. It's like the opposite of what mine is.
Mine too.
Well, we are all different, so that's perfect. What would you have to say about your piece, Diana?
I say that, like I said before, we all have the power in our hand to make this world better. We just need to start now.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those
Fair
thoughts.
enough.
And I'm glad that you were able to express your emotions about it. It is a very lively piece, and we do appreciate your work. Okay, next student.
And there you go.
Oh my gosh, I'm really excited to see Ben's. Okay, so this is mine.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Hold on, let me turn
Hold on
around.
a second. I can't really see it. How do we, let me do the full screen here. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow.
Hey, you didn't say that for mine.
Well, how did you do that? Like, where you do like the spirals? Like, did you use something, or did you just do that by hand?
No, I just did it by hand.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Do I have to keep it up?
Very nice.
Oh, okay. It's up to you if you want to hold it up. We can continue to discuss what we see in this painting and what it makes us feel. Diana, do you have any comments on this critique?
I think it is it's very nice the way you did all the spirals, and they look very symmetrical, even though you did it by hand. It's like you did it with like a machine or something. It feels that we're in a black hole.
That's exactly what I thought. It was like a black hole.
But maybe there is light entering the black hole, and we're all gonna be better when we find where we're gonna meet when the world gets destroyed.
Great observation. All right. Ben already told us. Anything else that you guys want to say about her painting before she tells us about it? Okay, go ahead, Anna. Please let us know.
So a lot actually, yeah, I think what Dana was saying is kind of true. The way like it made me feel, like climate change makes me feel scared, and I feel like it's chaos. And that's sort of where this started. Like it's just like a scary dark hole that is really chaotic. But as we go out, there's actually like these corners are all untouched by the black, and it's just kind of like hopeful that there's still areas that are able to be revived and saved. Also, it was like really cathartic. I was able to kind of get out the feeling of anxiety and stuff just by like doing the circles over and over again. So that was fun. And yeah, I mean, like it's just like Diana said, there is light in the middle of all this chaos and darkness, and there is hope, but it's also kind of scary. And yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. That was very nice. So I did forget that we do a round of applause for everybody. So
Oh.
you guys. Sorry,
I
Diana.
didn't get a wow, and I didn't get a round of applause.
Round of applause for Diana as well. That was definitely supposed to happen.
Kitty got
Or you
scared.
can do
I'm
the.
sorry, Kitty.
All right, go ahead, Benjamin.
I'm not much of an artist here. But this concept I've been thinking of for a while. So I don't know. I think I told Karen about it once before. But so I will, you want me to show the painting or the picture first, right? And then before explain anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Will you tell me what's going on? And then, yeah, I'll just shut up for now.
Yes, don't forget what you have to say after they look at it.
I don't know if I can get it on the screen.
Oh.
Can you see?
Go to the left a little bit, or you're right.
We're cooking.
You're right, you're right.
We're
Yeah,
like lobsters, and we're getting cooked. I can't see. Why can I see your?
Wait.
Your.
Oh, it's
there.
zooming out now. Now I gotta
That's
zoom in. I think the
We're
camera's
trying
actually
to get out of the pot. How you say, like la olla,
Hot.
pot, and then we're getting cooked. But we might be able to get out.
Yeah, that's creepy. I like it. Well, it makes me definitely feel hot. Feel the heat.
I think that we put ourselves in that situation. So we put ourselves in that pot, and now we're feeling the heat and we're trying to get out of it.
Okay. If everybody's finished giving their feedback, can we have the artist Benjamin please share his experience?
So yeah, I'm trying to show like that when something is like when a pot like changes slowly in temperature, we don't realize the changes, kind of like lobsters do, and then they don't realize that they're being cooked in the pot. but if we see a large change, then we sort of act upon it, and we usually take more action. So with climate change, it's one of those things that's like this, it's been so slow and subtle that we sort of been like reluctant to believe it exists. So I kind of put this couple here like looking out at the sunset, and they're kind of pretending like everything's all right when it's really not. It's kind of like the musicians and like the Titanic when it's going down. They're like, you know, playing music like everything's fine, but it's not. So like the idea is that yeah, to like that these things like we need to like call to action, and the alarm bells are now like been going off for a long time. So it's now like it's not like just a little subtle change anymore. It's sort of like something that we need to take seriously. Otherwise we're gonna get hooked like the lobsters without even realizing it.
And the aliens are gonna eat us.
No,
From
they're
my
gonna
picture.
save us. They're gonna save us.
In my picture, they're saving us and then they're gonna eat us since we're lobsters. So in Benjamin's picture.
Wow.
And then we're gonna get in the black hole, Juanita.
No, we're getting out of
That
it.
black hole, it looks
Oh, we're
pretty
getting out of the black hole.
inescapable.
Depends on what
But
choices.
I don't know, maybe there's a glimmer of hope, like I don't know, maybe that we can kind of like see past like our like political views and our like sort of stubbornness to like admit that there's like something wrong, and maybe we're responsible for it, and then you know maybe when that happens then there can be like some real change. So hopefully, yeah, it's cautious optimism. Yes.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really proud of everybody. You guys put in a lot of work. Clap for Ben.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you guys. You've learned a lot during this unit, and I want to let you guys know that I'm very proud of your work, and I hope that you learned a lot from this experience and you are going to take into account the things that you can do, you know. Remember that art is a tool to help us learn about climate change. I think that integrating art in this lesson has helped us really get an experience